In this video I will use a handheld plunge router to route these tongue and groove joints. So I could join these planks, routing a tongue and groove joint there. But I will join all 4 planks like this, making a tongue and groove joint there, there and there. I will use that chipboard to make the jig I will use to route all the tongue and groove joints. I will route all the planks on this chipboard. But if I put the planks there, if I use the router fence, the router base is above the plank's surface. So I will put the planks there, with that edge overhanging the chipboard edge. Like this, the router fence is above the chipboard surface, and the router base is entirely on the plank. So I will put there the first plank, and I screw one strip behind it. Now I need to put one stop block to each side, and I want them to be perfectly aligned with the edge of the plank. But I also need to route the head of those short planks. I put it against the strip I screwed before. I align the head with the edge of the first plank, and I put that block there. These 3 pieces must be perfectly aligned here, and I screw the block. It is not perfect, but before I fix it, I will screw the stop block in the other side. I make sure it is perfectly aligned and I screw it. Now I put that small piece of plywood behind that board. I fix that stop block, making sure now it is perfectly aligned there. I must make sure I drive the screw's head under the wood surface, otherwise the router base will bump into them. Like this I can put the planks in the jig, and I can turn them or I can put the other planks, and they will always be in the same position. So I will join the planks like this. And I must decide where to route the tongues and where to route the grooves. There I will route a groove, the tongue there, there a tongue, too, one groove there, a groove there, too, and one tongue there. Nothing there, nothing, 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 and nothing. And here, in this side, I will route a tongue, and in this side, I will route a groove. Like this, I know where to route all the grooves I need, and in front of them, I will route all the tongues. So I put 2 planks in the jig, and I will route the grooves. I make sure they are perfectly aligned there. And I want to route a groove there. With my plunge router and a slot cutter router bit with a bearing, I set the depth of cut. I want the center of the router bit disc slightly above the center of the plank edge. Because the plank edge is overhanging the chipboard edge, the router bit won't touch neither the chipboard nor the tabletop. Once I set the depth of cut, I lock the router, and I will route rolling the bearing against the plank edge. Like this, I route the edge of one plank, and I also route the head of the other plank. Now I turn the planks the way you can see in the video. And once again I root them. But first I clamp the chipboard, because it moves when I root. When I root, first one face of both planks is up, and then I root with the other face up. Like this, the groove I get is perfectly centered. Well, maybe it is wider than what I expected. Because the bearing rolls against the plank edge, I cut a perfect straight groove. So I have just root the grooves there, and in this short plank I still have to root a groove there. And I also have to root a groove in the edge in the other short plank. I put them there, against that stop block, but I need to put another stop block in this side. I could move this one, but I will leave it there, and I will put another one. I align it there, and I screw it. I root a groove in both planks. I turn the planks, and I root them again in the same edge. Like this I get a perfectly centered groove. Here we can see how the groove in the edge matches with the groove in the head. Now I have to root a tongue in the edge in the long plank, so I unscrew this stop block. And I also put there that short plank, because I have to root a tongue in the head in that plank. The easiest would be to use the same router bit. I could set the depth of cut like this to root the tongue in the other plank. I would root half the way, and then I would root again to get the tongue thickness I need. But I think it can be interesting to see how to use a straight router bit to root a tongue. So I set the depth of cut, but with the router bit edge slightly below the groove. And I will root with one face of the planks up, and then with the other face up. I measure the groove depth, and I mark that measurement on the plank I want to root. I install the router fence, and I turn the router bit until the bit edges are at 90 degrees with the router fence. I put the bit edge besides the mark. Well, I prefer to move it slightly to the right. I'll adjust it later if I need it. I move the fence against the plank edge, and I tighten the knobs. Now I root in that corner. I turn the plank and I root in the same corner. And I check how they fit. As expected, the tongue is too thick, so I have to adjust, just a bit, the depth of cut, so I can root slightly deeper. I'll have to make minor adjustments until I get the perfect tongue dimensions. So I release the depth stop and I move it up just a bit. I lock the depth stop. I release the lever that locks the router, and I push the router until the depth stop blocks it. I lock the lever, and I root. and I check how it fits. And I keep making minor adjustments until I get the tongue that fits in the grooves. My plunge router has a depth adjustment rod, so it is easier to adjust the depth stop if I turn that rod. And finally I get a tongue that fits almost perfect in the groove. But I would rather the joint were more tight. Luckily I don't have to adjust the router fence, so I will route all the tongues. I will wear a dust mask. First I route with the router fence at a distance from the plank edge. And then I route it again, with the fence against the plank edge. I turn both planks. And I route. This tongue and groove joint is a bit loose, but not bad to be the first time. The tongue in the head matches perfect with the groove in the edge. Now I have to route the tongue in the edge in the short planks. If I put them like this, I fit the tongue in the groove, so now they are shorter. But if I put them like this, now they are still as long as when I put them there to route the grooves. I screw the stop block and I route the tongues, but I forgot to click the record button. I route it. I turned the planks. And I route it again. And now I can check how they fit. When I join the head of two planks, the tongue in the edge is continuous, without any interruption. And they fit quite nice in the edge. But in some parts the joint is more tight than in the others. I am quite happy with this tongue and groove joint, but in the next video I will try to improve this technique. Thanks for watching. You can find all my woodworking videos in my channel in YouTube. And if you like my videos, thanks for subscribing to my channel.